Well, welcome back to our podcast. We're excited today to talk with you guys about our two main foundational F's. That is dear to our heart because that is truly what's rooted us and grounded us throughout our whole entire life and in business, especially, and of course, personal life. And I think it's the most important. So, number one is going to be our faith. So how that has changed our life. And then number two, is fitness, being able to steward your body, so that we can always keep our, it's mind, body, soul. So I think those two things, if you can get that, working on that and just building that and building your faith, building your, fitness journey, that can completely change your life, for the better. I know it will. So let's get into it. So I wanted to ask you, Kass, because your journey is a little bit different than mine when it comes to faith. And I know your upbringing was different. And just tell us a little bit about what that was like and, how it has transitioned into your adulthood.
Yeah, great question. Growing up, I grew up Catholic and I was actually never baptized.
What?
I know, it's crazy. But I was one of the only in my family that was not baptized. My sister, my brother, parents, and so on, they're all baptized. So I remember everyone being Catholic around me. And very young, my family members, my aunt and my grandma, they would pick me up for church on Sundays. And I just remember going. And I don't remember it resonating. I don't remember it speaking to me, or really being a guide for me. I just know God was good and I believed in him. And then really I was excited for the donuts and the sugar and all the things that would come with church, going with them. But yeah, I didn't really have my relationship with God. I would even say years, into just going into even, teenage years and young adult years. And really the person that brought me closer to the belief of God was my mom. And she had a very rough upbringing. She had gone through a lot growing up herself and she found God. And so I just saw her always praying. And I remember we'd have this candle because Catholics, they have different saints. And so she would light the candle every single day and pray. And I didn't have that connection to God. So I just really wanted it though, because I saw how at peace she would be. Yeah, she would worry and she would just get in her head and really, really worry a lot. And once she threw on her candle and prayed, like she was okay. I remember seeing her be okay after that. And I wanted that. I just never felt it truthfully. And so it wasn't until I'd say young adult where I was going through the phase of going out and being around the crowd and people, and even a little bit further, I got pretty sick and very, very sick to a point where I was very healthy. And then within a week, I couldn't even walk. And it was very similar to a disease called lupus where all this was happening, all these symptoms I couldn't even explain. And so I remember just reaching for anything and I was praying like, dear God, what is this? Please help me get out, heal. And I just remember really desperately wanting to reach for him. And so that was my first, I guess, low that caused me to really search. Other than that, I was always just kind of, mimicking was around me and believing in it, but I didn't have my true example of why I was searching for it until I got sick. And that was in high school. And then after that, I was in, my high school sweetheart. I had a relationship and ended up, not on the best terms. So there was another moment in my life, another low. And so I came to him more during that time because I felt lost. I felt lonely. I felt broken. I felt like I lost my way, and when you are in that moment where everything around you is just crumbling, you're going to reach for something.
Yeah.
And that was my other reach after that, breakup and the crowd around me, right? I'm at this point where it's a lot of influences like drinking and the partying and all that. And when you're participating in those type of things, right, it really is not aligned with God. So although I like believed in God at this point and I was praying and I was wanting good things, like my actions were not aligned. And you could feel it. And I didn't feel, you know, when it's good and when it's bad, what you're doing. Like if I'm going to go out to the club or I'm going to go do this, I'm like, this is probably not good in God's eyes, but you know,
like, I'm doing it.
Yeah. And I would do it. And so it was kind of like very, very lukewarm, I would say. I was in my faith. And then I realized, you know, I can't just go to him when things are bad. I need to be grateful and I need to give him praise for the good, for any moment, good or bad. And going through so many trials, and you know, there's so much, you know, in that those trials, that each time it's brought me closer to him. I've trusted him more. I've trusted him more because he never let me down. And so building that, years in, I finally got introduced to Christianity. And that was actually through you. So you invited me to church and I would just pray. You know, I was doing my thing and I would talk to him. I didn't read the Bible. I didn't do any of those things, but I prayed to him and I would thank him and I would ask for certain things that I was looking to, miracles, whatever it is. And then you invited me to church and it was the Desert Springs Church in Chandler. And I just remember that day, it was like the message hit me. And I'm like, wow, I feel at home. I feel at peace. I get why people go to church, right? Catholic just wasn't that for me. And not to say it's not a beautiful religion, you know, but I had to find my own way and my own path. And it really, that's when my relationship with God strengthened personally, because I had that message that spoke to me and I could actually follow it, you know, because I really think the Bible and I think the word, it's a guide for life.
Truly.
It is. So if I can follow it now and it connects with me, now I'm stewarding everything that I'm learning there, but also building that relationship with God. So from that point on, I think it was about a year later, maybe 2, I got baptized. So I'm now baptized. Thank God.
Maybe
Praise
that
the
happened
Lord.
for a reason, though. That's crazy.
Yeah, no, I truly believe that. And I think it is good that happened when I was an adult and I chose it, because when you're young and you're an infant and you're baptized,
You don't know.
that decision's made for you. Not to say, and I never will knock people who do that, because I think it's a beautiful thing to introduce to the young, but having that decision, that choice, there's so many different religions and beliefs, like choosing it, right? It is so aligned with who you are. So I'm grateful that that happened. And, you know, I invited family members who are Catholic and they always supported me, you know, and I just beat my own beat to the drum. You know, I just did what felt right for me. And God has showed up in my life in so many ways. And we'll get into it, but that's just kind of my upbringing and the transition that's happened for me. And so it's been a beautiful, beautiful journey for me, honestly.
Wow.
And
it's so beautiful.
Thank you. And I want to thank you like publicly for bringing me closer to God and you following your faith and you were doing exactly what you were supposed to do. And you continue to do that. You are the worship, you are the church, and you bring people, right? And that's what we're supposed to do. So thank you for doing that for me. And I'm sure you know that, but really it is something that's changed my life. So
I think it's just, you can be a good person, but truly, like, you know, you can have a friend, right? You can have, like, we can be friends, but when what's really like, if we're not together, right, we're not going to be together every single moment of the time. And the only person that could truly be with you and like, you know exactly what you're going through is God, you know, and it's like, and when you love people and when you know what he has done, like in your life, like you just want them to have the same relationship, you know? So it's, it's just seeing the whole journey. And again, you know, this is why our podcast is rooted from like, just like everything that we've gone through, like just seeing each other's journey, because it is crazy to like have met when we're like 21, 20, and then to like how our faith and our journey has, grown over the years. And, and then like seeing you have so much peace now, and having so much like trust in him. It's so like amazing to see. It inspires so many other people, because I remember when you were in that state, especially if you have, with the illness, right? It's very difficult if you don't have somebody else, because you're in your head. It's your physical body. We're human. We're emotional, and it's a hard thing to deal with, And it's like, but I truly believe in miracles, and and I've seen it time and time again in like my life, my friend's life, my family's life. So yeah, I just want to say I'm so proud of you, and just like being a light. I mean, you've always been a light, like that's just who you are as a person. So the fact that now it's like you can talk about your journey and then inspire so many others in their faith is beautiful to see. And she is you're going to she lived in North Scottsdale, so you're going to the other church, and now she's closer to my
back
church
home in Springs, yes.
Which is amazing. So can't wait for Sunday.
It feels good to be back, honestly. And no, you touched on something too that so good, was just when you are sick, when things are happening out of your control, like you try to play that God.
Yeah.
You try to control the outcome. You want to have every grip you can. And I even talk about that relationship, because you try to control the outcome of that, or this person, where I'm supposed to be with this person. It's all in your own like doing. And when you do that, it's you're playing God. And I remember that was like very clear to me. I'm like, man, I'm trying to control everything. And I'm worried when it doesn't go that way. And there's no trust with God. So you definitely highlighted a spot where I feel like so many people may or may not realize that they're doing that, whether it's in your job, in your business, in your relationships. When you let go and literally give that to God, it will either work for you or it's not meant to be there, and having that trust. But I do want to ask you your upbringing, because it's so special, and having, your faith the way that you had growing up. How did that really start for you?
So for me, I grew up in a Christian home. But I remember growing up, I grew up in Korea, as you guys know. And, when I would come home from school, like there'll be like people from church, like at my house, like praying, worshiping, the whole thing. So I always, from early on, my family was really good about just teaching me principles and, why we do the things that we do, and why, just, like being love. So I always believed in God. Now, before, I came into the world, my grandma was completely a different religion. And the whole reason why she kind of went into Christianity was because she wanted to have a son. And she wasn't like, she kept having girls after girls after girls after girls. And I guess she prayed, one day, and she's like, if you're like real, like, please give me a son. And the moment, and then like pastors prayed over her, and she had a son, which is my uncle, so she had, and that's when her whole journey started. She spoke in tongue, like she's just like a very spiritual woman. And, she was the root and the foundation of our family. And, my mom, she didn't become, a Christian or believe in God until like her older years. And that really started with also when my dad passed away, and she was in a really, really dark spot, because she felt like the world was like crumbling down, and she got to a point even where she didn't even want to live anymore. And she was just like she just was exhausted herself, and she was so low. And so when you talk about being in that low moment, that was her low. And she was like, it's, I don't know if I want to like get into all of that, but she, just to kind of give you guys an idea, she just like, she just wanted to give up on life. And when we were at the beach and she was kind of in her head, and basically the devil talking, right? Like why do you deserve to live? Like, you know, how are you going to take care of this child? Like, you know, all this stuff. But there was a voice that she heard. It's like, have you even tried though? Did you try? Did you even seek me? You know? And that was a moment. It's like, I guess I can, you know, let go like of the whole life, whatever, end it anytime. She's like, might as well just try, you know? And that's when like her whole faith journey really started. She did have like couple situations here and there where she had like illnesses that wasn't, she's super healthy now, but there was a situation where like the doctors couldn't figure out why she was having these type of symptoms. And the moment that she started praying, and you know, our pastor, we have family friend pastor that prayed over her, like every time there was something weird like that would happen and they would pray over her, like things would be miracles would happen and she would be healed. And there was be no explanation to how, like the doctors were like, I just don't, there's no explanation for that, you know? And so I've seen like miracles happen over and over again in our family. And, you know, so when we moved to, you know, this country, and we had no plans. Everybody told my mom, like, don't go. Like, what are you doing? You don't even have money. You don't have a plan. But she was like, no, I'm going to do this. I know that I need to take care of, you know, my daughter, and I know God's going to provide. And truthfully, guys, like we came here to America with a Bible and like not much at all. And that's why I'm such a big, like, I believe so wholeheartedly, because if it wasn't with God, when the times were low for me, being in this country, coming to a new country and having nothing, going from having family all around me to like not having anybody, you know, it was tough as a child. And every time I felt low or dark, I've always would pray, like when I was like little, and it would always get me through, and like there'll be hope, and we were always grateful, and and he has seriously have provided for like every single thing that I have in my life. And that's why it's hard for me to like, I mean, obviously he's real, you know what I mean? And I want everyone to experience that, because when you truly give it to God, like you said, and just let go, you don't have that anxiety anymore. When you don't have him, and sometimes it'll happen too in our everyday life. We're so busy, and then things are happening, and you're like, oh my gosh, like I gotta be the best. I gotta do this. But truthfully, like you're doing your best that you can, right? You're giving it all you got, and you know God's gonna take care of you. It's a whole different like journey, and everything just starts working out.
It really
you know,
does.
So I don't know. I just am such a big advocate for just pouring into your spirit, getting close to God. And Christianity is, oftentimes people think it's just a religion, but it's really just a relationship with God, just between you and him, right? The relationship you get to build. And when you have him, like not everything can go wrong, but at the same time, nothing can go wrong, you know? So that's kind of been my journey, I guess.
No, I love it, and it's so beautiful that you light up when you talk about it. It's truly something that has brought you through till now, right? And it continues to. And it's just special to have an unwavering belief, because there's moments where you're tested and your belief is truly tested to see, do you actually believe in me? Do you actually trust me? And to have that and still be a light and still no question, that right there is a true believer, a person of faith. And you know, there's so many different religions that we're not here to tell you one's better than the other, but find your God, find that, you know, person or guide for you to feel that peace. And, you know, I think too many times we don't talk about like what that intimate conversation or those moments that we take with him or her or whatever it is, right? But what do you do daily to build that relationship with God?
Just talking to him, like throughout the day, and of course being in your word and scripture. And I will say, like, I've always had strong faith, obviously being able to come to this country, seeing everything that he has provided for us and all these miracles, and showing gratitude. But there was also a period of time where I always knew God, but I just kind of was like, I kept him there. I always had faith, but I was starting to steer away from, really being present when we were in church, really being, reading the Bible and being in the scripture. I grew up like reading about it all, throughout my childhood. And so when I became a teenager and like going into college, I just started to drift away a little bit. And I almost took advantage. I don't know if that makes sense, but took advantage of like my faith. Like I knew I had faith, but I wasn't really like every day being in my word, until truly like, maybe being in the business, of course, it's also started to come back because that is like a main foundation, thankfully, and that we talk about in our company and our business. But especially like this year, it has helped. Just I think that happened when my grandma passed away, last year, and it just wanted, like, I was like hungry again, hungry for the scripture, and so now it's being in the word and just really seeing, because like you said, it's way of life, and there's even anything that you might be going through, whatever you're feeling, anxiety or persevering through life, you could look up scripture in there and it talks about, like, it's literally tells you like exactly how, like, and it just gives you peace of mind, reminder. And so it's just being that. And I think it's just talking to him every day. And then also one of the biggest thing that has changed this year for me is praying for others. I would always pray about, like, obviously, what I might be going through, or like giving, I always gave thanks no matter what. So grateful. But I feel like I wasn't really good about praying for others, like when bad things happen, like, oh, I'm gonna pray for you, things like that. But truly until like this year is when I'm like, when I'm in the shower, like I'm literally, like I told you the other day, like I'm like praying for every single person that pops up in my head, a lot of our team, a lot of our friends, family, your family. I pray about.
Sometimes I pray for yours too. Wait, I'm like, sometimes I forget, like, oh wait, that person too, and this person. Like, it's just the biggest list, but no.
I pray for Aj and Kass.
Thank you.
And their relationship. I pray for John and Elli. Like, I pray for people's relationship, and that's one thing that has also really helped me, and just being better at that, because I truly want to now, and that's something that was really different this year for me. So
I love that.
I don't know if that answers.
No, it does. It truly does, because you can see it from where you were maybe a few years ago to now, and you're stronger than I've ever seen you in your faith now. And it's because I truly think you are taking those characteristics, those principles, like God, and he's selfless and he loves everyone and forgives. And that's what you're doing when you're praying for other people, is you are blessing their lives. And that's what he wants, right? Is for us, for him to do that to us, but us to do that for others. So
sorry, I was going to say one thing I do want to highlight, because sometimes I see people, in Christianity, and I feel like it's unfortunate because sometimes people steer away from just truly getting to know God and their relationship because of somebody in a religion that is either false teaching or judging people. And the only person that could judge someone else is God, and that's that's a big thing for me. It's like being love and giving people grace, giving people mercy. Obviously, if it's not a relationship that's serving you, you can distance yourself and start, protect yourself from that. But at the end of the day, everybody is human, and we're nobody to judge. And so that's one thing that I really want to tell everybody, to make sure that you're not being judgmental to others, and you don't exactly know what their situation is, what their journey is, what their relationship is. And I think with us, even with the team and how we're inviting people to church, it's because we don't force them. It's just like, hey, if you come with us, and just it's a safe space for like everybody. And they start to grow in their faith and how it's changing their life, and they tell you like their testimony, and it's so beautiful. And so I think that's a key factor, to not judge others.
Yes.
To help them grow in their faith.
Well, only God can judge, right? And that's actually something I think of pretty often when I see myself doing that, because there's things that are more instinctual for us that like, oh, we automatically go there. But when you're working on your faith and your spirituality, you can catch those moments, as far as judging and deciding, weighing it out, and not being impulsive. That's another thing of like, let me just pray on this. Let me not do this right away, because I'm maybe emotional right now. I may be heightened. Like, I need to really give this to God, and He will lead the way. Like, doing that is a big sign of trust, right? But judging is another one that, who are you?
Yeah.
And I think that's so good that you touch on that. And another thing too is there are so many like scriptures and words, if you get a Bible. I remember like I had to look up how to like read the Bible. So if you're new or you're going through that, or maybe you have it, I don't know. But it's, you got to find out what works for you. But I remember looking up like, how do I read the chapter and the verse, like how do I say that, but I finally did, and there's a few that I feel like speak to me. But I'm sure you have maybe a few, like, I guess, life scriptures or things that you go to or think of when you feel like you need it.
Honestly, I think if you're starting out, Psalm is a great like book. So go Psalm, and if you're in business, like Proverbs, both. Like, it's a great scripture and reading, because Psalm gives you a lot of encouragement, and it talks about anytime you feel down. Like, I mean, I could pull one up right now, but it's it always, like, even yesterday I was doing some Bible study in the morning with Alina, and it just instantly gave like that peace of mind and just reassurance. And you feel, and I don't know, even like all day yesterday, such a it sets the mood for the day, just like if you were to give yourself an affirmation, and it truly helps you. So I think that's where you can start for people who maybe it's not always well, obviously there are a lot of stories in the book, but I think if you're just trying to kind of start there, I think that would be a great starting point too. And I have tons, but I guess the one, Psalm 23 has always been me and my mom's scripture coming to this country, and we would read that every single day, and so it just tells you like, I will be with you, basically, throughout your whole, like, you're not alone. And I don't know, I can't think, I'm like no, stuck on it right now, but it's just take a look, guys.
Got it.
But it's been and if you read it every day, it will really give you that strength that you need.
I'm gonna actually do that after this. Well, thank you for that.
I guess we maybe we'll talk about, fitness on the next episode, but I do want to touch on that a little bit as well, because that's another foundation that's really important in our lives. And it's especially for you, it has, especially you dealing with, illness that you had to deal with, and just overcoming that, and, steering away from Western medicine. So tell me how the fitness has been, kind of your path to just bettering yourself and in your whole like personal life, business wise, just overall.
Absolutely. Well, with faith, you know, I have to have that belief that He's going to carry me through. But it was about almost 10 years actually to the year where I had really, really scary symptoms. And I eventually got diagnosed with Sjogren's syndrome. So Sjogren's syndrome, it's an autoimmune disease. And so there's days where my body attacks itself and it would, you know, and I've always been very healthy, I'd say, because I grew up in gymnastics. My dad put me in there very young. Thank God. I had so much energy.
Strong.
So he put me in gymnastics for about 8 years. I did that. So it taught me how to trust myself, overcome the fears, like push my limits, and gave me structure. And that's always been very dear to me, is having that. But now with God and having my belief there, when there's moments, especially when I was going through that episode, where I literally, within a week, it was like on a Tuesday, I had little bumps on my legs appear. I went to the gym, ran my mile. I said, a mile a day keeps the long away. So I would run my mile a day. But I remember, you know, that night I got home and there was bumps all over my legs, like little red bumps, looked like mosquito bites. And I knew something was wrong instantly. I've never had anything like this. My mother, she has multiple sclerosis. I'm like, something's up. And I just cried. I was sitting in the bathtub and I cried because I'm like, I don't know why. I just knew it was something serious. So the next day it swelled up and attacked my joints. My joints, I had big masses and it was so painful. I couldn't even stand up. Like 0 to 100, literally. That was the next day. And then by the third day, I literally couldn't walk. I couldn't move my elbows. Like I felt like I was an old person that was very sick. So by that Friday, I was just so out of myself. Like I couldn't even think about walking to the bathroom by myself. I couldn't even do anything on my own. And I remember just being defeated. And not like really questioning, am I ever going to be able to like run, work out? Like, what is this? Questioning everything, my faith. Like I was numb. And it was a very dark time for me because I in a sense lost my identity. Because I always loved to work out, and very, very challenging for me to think about not doing that. And so now fast forward a few years, right? I've learned, well, right away, the doctor tried giving me a basically a lifelong medication that has all these other complications, like horrible complications, like your teeth are going to fall out. Like you got to go to the dentist like every 6 months. And like, it was just so extreme. And he just met me that day. So that was my moment. I'm like, I'm going to do everything that I can do first before I even touch medication, because I've seen what it can do. And I looked into ways that I can lower my stress, because that's a big indicator that it can bring on these symptoms, and sleep. So, you know, when we were roommates, you remember, I would have my days where I wouldn't sleep and my flare-ups would start coming in. Those symptoms start coming on. Stress
was a big indicator when you would go through. And
that makes sense, because I was trying to control everything. I was trying to play God, right? I was not at peace. So that for me, having just control on, well, I say control, but giving it up, right? That control, and being focused on lowering my stress. Also the food I ate. It was about 6 months before I found out I was diagnosed with this, Sjogren's syndrome. I went vegan. I watched What the Health on Netflix. I went vegan, and the doctor actually told me, I saw another doctor, of course, got another opinion, and they said plant-based diet is the best diet for this type of condition. I was like,
perfect.
I'm in. So I stuck with it, and years I've done it, and I'm now vegetarian, but that helped my swelling. I have not had, you know, knock on wood, but I have not had a big flare up in years. And
it's so powerful.
It's everything. And staying active has been my medicine. Like getting into running. When I feel like I can't do anything, when I feel like, you know, when you have those moments where maybe things are going your way, if you can't do anything, work on your fitness and work on your faith. Because when you focus on those two things, as I have, it's pulled me out and it's brought me even further.
Amazing. And also you talk about you getting into running because you lost a lot of weight.
Oh, yes.
I didn't even realize because I always saw you every day. So I'm like, what?
Yes, you guys, running saved my life. Like, I'm not even kidding. It was 2022. I was 30 pounds heavier.
That's crazy.
I was 30 pounds heavier. I was drinking a lot more. I was eating any dessert I wanted. I was just being very out of control. And yes, so I would always run my little mile at the gym and work out, but I was not consistent. My food was not there. Everything is your nutrition. Yeah. But me and my fiance started running, and long story short, he got on the treadmill next to me, and I'm very like competitive when it comes to just like running physical activity. And he started running next to me, and I ran my mile, and then he ran his mile, but he was like going longer. And I was like, what? He's not stopping. And so he kept going, and that forced me to keep going. And that's how we got really into our longer distance running. And so we loved it. We started doing 2, 3, 4 miles, pushing ourselves. And that's what it is for me. Honestly, you guys, is running. It allows me to just really compete with myself. Like, man, I know I'm not going to stop. Like, even though this hurts so bad, I am not going to give in because I'm going to push myself. And that goes into all other areas in life. But anyway, with running, we started doing that at the gym. And then we were like, well, how can we really like get ourselves out there, really compete and get uncomfortable here? Yeah. And there's races. So if you're ever trying to get into running, just sign up. Like, I've never ran a race before that. I don't even know what it looks like. But we looked up a race and we decided if we're going to travel, we're going to pick a race and travel there. And that's why we're going to spend money to go there. So we found a race in San Francisco. It was a month out from when we booked it. And it was a half marathon, which is 13.1 miles or maybe 13 point something. I think it's 13.1. But anyway, oh my gosh, we did that. And it was my first time ever running that far. But
how did you feel?
I mean, I thought I was going to like croak at one point, but honestly, no. It was almost, you get into this, they call it a runner's high, where you just are in your zone. You feel on top of the world. Like, I feel like I can't even put into words unless you feel it. It's like you're in this rhythm and it's addicting. And on top of that, I'm in this beautiful city. I have other people pushing themselves to the limits. It's just like a contagious environment. So that's why I'm starting a running club soon. So stay tuned. Stay tuned. But it was just so addicting. And like having that environment and pushing myself and all of that, that was a start. And of course, having my spouse doing that with me, it's like, I wouldn't ask for anything else. Like, we're both so in love with it. And then I shed off 30 pounds. Same for him.
That's crazy.
Isn't that wild?
I didn't even know that. What?
Yeah, he was 30 pounds heavier as well. So running and just doing our thing has helped. But of course, with that is recovery, and you have to take care of yourself and rest and not get hurt. But yeah, it's absolutely been a pinnacle thing for me now. And like I said, if you feel that things are so not going your way, or you don't know where to start, things have happened. Start with your faith, dig in, open up, that Bible, or just start praying and your fitness. Go for that walk, go for the jog, be around it, get that $10 membership going, whatever you have to do, and invest in yourself. Yeah.
And then you'll track the right people in your life, because your aura is going to be, when you feel good, you do good, right?
So true, yes.
So I think that will caterpillar everything else in your life. And so really, really good topic today on the 2 foundation. We'll get into it more here in the next couple episodes about that because we got a lot to say. Yes, we do. But thank you for sharing your story and just your journey and being vulnerable. And, I'm sure there's a lot of people that can relate with things that you've gone through, and I can't wait to unpack more here in the next couple episodes.
Of course, and same to you. Thank you for always being vulnerable and just being a light and showing them, not just telling them, So can't wait to share more, but we love you guys, and see you next episode.
Bye, guys.